So, the samples you'll run, back to Dr. Seuss. I use the color scheme if you couldn't tell. That's the color scheme of that book you saw. What do we use GCxGC for? What are the most popular things? The cool part, food, authenticity, that's boring, but you could, right? There's certain regions of the world that are producing certain products, and they want to make sure it's coming from that area. Well, this is the optimum thing to do that. We can run it, make sure it's got all the right things to say it's coming from a certain soil type and has the certain blend. The aroma profiling, that's the cool stuff, because then if you ever get a grant for that, then you get to drink the whiskey and drink the red wine and drink the white wine and drink the beer, and there's a lot of drinking involved. But this profiles, it's the ultimate aroma profiler. We can, you can get an attachment to smell it as it's going by. I prefer just to drink it while it's going by. But you can do, there's a lot of contracts right now, believe it or not, on what is true Scottish whiskey versus true bourbon from the South. And you can purify your products based on that and look at the aroma profile. So not only do you have to have that smart nose that says you've got vanilla tones with raspberries, this instrument will tell you there's vanillin in there and whatever makes raspberry smell. I don't know the name of that chemical. Medical, huge advances in medical. And this is where most of the work is going for GCxGC right now. Breath analysis. I just read a method the other day where they can take your breath and tell if you have COVID. Who knew? By GCxGC. But they can also tell things that are going on in your body by your breath. People get bad breath for other reasons, but it is a good diagnostic that they can do in pretty quick time. Biomonitoring, human biomonitoring or wildlife biomonitoring, we can measure stuff in foods or humans and assess the chemicals in there, untargeted or targeted. Cannabis is a huge one. And I have a couple slides on cannabis because, who doesn't want to talk about cannabis? Metabolomics is another one. So there's a buddy of mine that works at University of Liège, and I worked with him at Centers for Disease Control, and he does a lot of research on metabolomics. And one of the talks he did a couple years ago is he did it on irritable bowel syndrome. And irritable bowel syndrome is very tough to diagnose. Basically, they try this, and if you don't have that, you have this, and if you don't have that, you have this, and if you don't have that, you have irritable bowel syndrome. So it's by default you get diagnosed. And so what they did is they took a cohort and they did metabolomics on them, and they were told whether they had it or didn't have it or were undiagnosed. And they were able to look at the entire metabolome from these individuals, categorize them, and they found 7 markers of irritable bowel syndrome using GCxGC, which instantly gets bought by the medical community because they can give you a little stick to pee on, and all of a sudden those 7 markers are measured. So this tears down all that data exploration, allows you to look for everything, find the markers, and then we can design a medical test to diagnose. So it's huge. Forensics, Volatilomics, this is sort of that dead body stuff. How long has the body been in the ground? Lady in Trois-Rivières works on that, Shari Forbes, and she actually builds body farms, puts bodies in the ground. People give their body to science, you could end up in the ground, and trains dogs and looks at how the dogs find the bodies, and you can measure the VOCs that are coming off the body and figure out how long it's been in the ground. So huge component there. Chemical fingerprinting, which is what I do, and we'll talk about a little bit. Getting more to the stuff that the audience is interested in. Petroleomics, this is the ultimate in characterizing crude. I could tell you which sub formation an oil's coming from based on this type of analysis, because we get all the biomarkers. We can zoom in and see the different markers and how those chemicals changed in that formation over time. Chemical fingerprinting, which I do, you have an oil release, we can tell where the oil was and where it wasn't based on these GCxGC. This is used a lot with the Macondo oil spill in the Gulf and Chris Reddy's group in Woods Hole. Product development and specification. If you're developing a synthetic petroleum product, you could monitor how well it's being produced and if there's any tainting in the product or anything that's happening, or how its lifespan is and when it breaks down, you could use it for that. Environmental, routine monitoring, exposomics, and biomonitoring. So again, any type of environmental monitoring that you're doing that's organic based. This is for organic chemicals. I didn't mention that, but this isn't for metals. That's a different analysis. Anything that's organic, we can monitor all those chemicals and figure out where they're coming from. Are they trending up or down? And you can use the whole chemical exposure rather than just a chemical or a few of them.